The snow hadn't stopped falling for 3 days. Ghost's white fur blended into the frost-covered ground as he padded ahead of Jon, sniffing at the air with an uneasy growl. The wind carried the scent of ash now, light but sharp. It didn't belong in Winterfell, but nothing felt like it belonged anymore. Jon tugged his cloak tighter around his shoulders. Daenerys had sent word 2 days ago. Her army was encamped a league south of the Neck, waiting for him, waiting for his answer. Behind him, the halls of Winterfell were colder than ever, not just because of the season, but because of the silence. Sansa no longer spoke to him unless duty demanded it. Arya's eyes had changed. She watched him like a stranger. And the northern lords? They gathered in whispering corners and stared at him like he was a knife they expected in their backs. Maybe they weren't wrong. Jon hadn't told them what he had told Daenerys. He hadn't told them he loved her. He hadn't told them he bent the knee not only for peace, but because he believed in her, needed her, wanted her, not just as a queen, but as something more, something he'd never dared admit out loud, not even now. He stood at the top of the battlements watching the white sky swallow the land. Somewhere out there Daenerys was waiting. She had dragons. She had Unsullied. She had fire. All he had was snow. I should have never told her. He muttered to himself. The secret, that he was Aegon Targaryen, rightful heir to the Iron Throne, had only pulled them further apart. She didn't want to share power. She wanted his silence, and he had given it. Not to keep the peace, but because deep down he feared losing her more than losing the crown. And now he was about to lose everything else. A soft voice broke through. The wind. You planning to run again, Jon? He turned. Arya stood behind him, hand on the hilt of her blade, her hair tied back like always. There was something in her eyes, not suspicion, not even anger, disappointment. I'm not running, he said. You're going to her. He didn't reply. She stepped closer. You saw what she did to King's Landing. She burned children alive, Jon. She had no choice, he said quickly, his voice sharp. Cersei used them as shields. And now you're using that to justify this? Arya asked, voice cold as steel. You're betraying the North. Jon looked away. The words stung, because they were true. She wants peace. She wants obedience, Arya snapped, and you're giving it to her. He turned to face her, anger flaring in his chest. You think I want this? You think this is easy for me? Every step I take away from this place, it kills me. But if I don't go to her, Arya, we'll have another war. One the North can't win. So you'd rather serve the Dragon Queen, she said, the name laced with venom, than stand with your family. He looked her in the eyes. I'd rather see fewer people die. Arya shook her head slowly. You sound just like Tyrion. She walked past him, brushing his shoulder as she went. You're making a mistake, Jon. And when the fire comes, don't expect the North to burn with you. He didn't follow her. That night he rode out under a grey moon alone. Only Ghost followed. The gates of Winterfell didn't shut behind him with anger or force. They shut with finality. Like a goodbye he couldn't hear but could feel in his bones. The Queen waited, and Jon Snow, Aegon Targaryen, rode into the storm to meet her. The storm welcomed him like an old friend, cold, blinding, and merciless. Jon pressed forward through it, his fingers numb around the reins, his thoughts louder than the howling wind. Every hoofbeat away from Winterfell felt like a betrayal, carved deeper into his skin. He hadn't told anyone where he was going. Not Sansa, not Bran, not even Sam. Ghost followed silently, the snow barely slowing the direwolf down. Jon wished he had the same strength, but inside him something was cracking. By the time he reached the Dragon Queen's camp, the snow had stopped, leaving only the eerie stillness of fresh ground. The unsullied guards moved aside without question. They'd been expecting him. His presence here wasn't just anticipated, it was necessary. Daenerys stood at the center of the war tent, her silver hair glowing against the firelight, a map of the North laid out in front of her. She didn't smile when she saw him. She didn't have to. Her eyes softened for only a moment before hardening again. You came, she said. I did. I wasn't sure, she admitted. After the last time, after what I said. I don't care about titles, Jon said. I care about the living. She stepped closer, her voice low. And do you still care about me? His breath caught. He hated how she could still twist his heart with a glance. He remembered the screams in King's Landing, the smell of burning flesh. And yet, here he was. She was still fire to him, beautiful. Dangerous, impossible to hold, yes, he said. She closed the gap between them, placed a hand on his chest. Then be mine, truly. Rule with me, not just in name. The North will fall in line if you lead them. Jon's jaw tightened. They won't follow me anymore. Then make them. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You are the true king, but they don't have to know. Let them hate you if they must. Let them call you traitor. But when the world is remade, you'll see it was worth it. He swallowed. Hard. What do you need from me? She stepped back, pointing to the map. Your bannermen, your voice. When the northern lords resist, you stand beside me, not as their kin, but as their reckoning. They will bend the knee or burn. He stared at the map, at the places he had bled for, Last Hearth, Carhold, Bear Island. They won't surrender, he said. Not to you. Then they'll surrender to you, she said. Or they'll die. The silence between them was heavy. And then Jon nodded. It wasn't surrender. It was sacrifice. That night, he kissed her like it was the last time he'd ever feel warmth. And maybe it was. The North didn't take the news quietly. Within a week, ravens flew from Daenerys' camp to every corner of the North. A new decree was declared. The North would join the new realm under Queen Daenerys Targaryen. With Jon Snow as her king and warden, it was Arya who told Sansa first. He bent the knee, again. And more than that, he's leading her army now. Sansa read the raven's words in silence. Her fingers trembled slightly, but she didn't speak. She just stared at the parchment like it was a blade slowly twisting in her chest. He betrayed us, Arya said. No, Sansa replied coldly. He abandoned us. There's a difference. Betrayal takes courage. In White Harbor, House Manderley refused the Queen's demands outright. In the Dreadfort, House Serwyn executed the messengers. Even small, quiet houses began preparing for war, not with the Lannisters, not with the dead, but with their own blood. With Jon, he sent one final raven to Winterfell. Sansa, please, don't make me choose between my queen and my home. We can build something new, but I need you to trust me. This is the only way to save the North from burning. Please, don't stand against me. Sansa burned the letter before Arya could finish reading it. The North remembers, she said, and the North doesn't kneel. The march of war drums echoed in the distance, and in the shadow of dragons, a traitor's crown began to fit too tightly on a Stark's head. The Queen's army moved like a wave, quiet, steady, and too vast to stop. Grey Worm led the Unsullied through the snow-covered roads with the precision of a blade. Behind them, the Dothraki thundered in packs, their screams echoing across the hills. And above them Drogon cast a black shadow over the north that didn't fade with the sun. Jon rode in silence. He hadn't worn Stark colours since leaving Winterfell. No direwolf on his chest, no wolf at his side. Ghost refused to follow him into the camps after the first skirmish. The direwolf lingered on the edges of Daenerys' army like a ghost, his name more fitting than ever. Every mile north was like walking across his own grave. They reached White Harbor first. Lord Manderley stood on the battlements with his sons. He'd once been an ally, fat, warm, full of songs and oaths to the Stark name. But when Jon rode to the gates, armored in black, with Targaryen red on his cloak, there was no welcome, only silence. Daenerys didn't come. She let Jon deliver the ultimatum. Open your gates, Jon called, and no blood will be spilled. Your people will be protected, I swear it on my name. Manderley's voice rang out, firm as the stone under his boots. You mean the name you threw away? Jon didn't. Answer. The gates didn't open. That night fire came, not from the Dothraki or the Unsullied, but from the sky. Drogon's roar split the clouds. The walls of White Harbor cracked under heat no snow could smother. Jon watched from the hill, his hands clenched, his lips tight. Every scream below tore at him. He didn't stop it. He didn't join it. He just let it happen. When the smoke cleared, half the harbor was ash. Manderley was dead. His sons too. The survivors were dragged from the rubble and told to swear fealty or meet the same end. They bent the knee, one by one. And Jon didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Arya appeared in the shadows of his tent. "You always were good at surviving," Jon said softly without looking up. "You used to be good at living," she replied. She didn't threaten him. She didn't raise a blade. She just asked him one question. Why? He turned to her, eyes hollow. "Because I thought I could change her. Because I thought if I stood next to her I could stop the worst from happening." Arya stared at him. "You didn't stop it. You gave it permission." He didn't argue. "What was the point?" "You should have let her go," she whispered. "You should have remembered who you are." Jon looked down at his hands. "I don't know who I am anymore." Arya disappeared into the darkness as quickly as she came. No goodbyes, no promises. She didn't come to kill him. Not yet. At Winterfell, preparations were no longer quiet. Sansa gathered bannermen from every loyal house that remained. The Starks had few allies left, but the North was stubborn, and it had bled for its freedom too many times to surrender easily. Men and women who had once fought the dead now sharpened their blades for the living. Bran sat in the godswood, unmoving, unblinking, seeing more than he told. "He's not coming back, is he?" Sansa asked him once. Bran didn't answer. Instead, he simply said, "If he stands with fire, then winter will break him." She didn't understand what he meant, but she felt the truth of it. Jon wasn't theirs anymore, not fully, but neither was he Daenerys's. He was something, broken now, caught in the middle, unable to turn back and unwilling to go forward. A ghost of a king, a shadow of a Stark, a Targaryen who still walked in snow but left fire behind him with every step. The war wasn't coming. It had already started. And when the North rose, it wouldn't rise to fight a queen. It would rise to kill a brother. Snow mixed with ash as it fell from the sky, grey flakes that didn't melt when they touched the ground. The North had always been cruel, but now it felt cursed. Jon stood by the burned ruins of a village south of the last. River, the people here hadn't even resisted. They just refused to abandon their gods. That was enough. Enough for Drogon, enough for Daenerys, not enough for Jon. He stared at a child's charred doll lying beside a blackened wall. He could hear Daenerys' voice echoing in his head. "They'll never follow us unless they fear us." Fear. That's what the North felt now when they heard his name. He remembered how they used to look at him, like he was hope, like he was theirs. Now, even his reflection seemed afraid of him. He washed his hands in the frozen stream nearby, scrubbing at the soot on his skin like it might hide the guilt. It didn't. The blood clung deeper than the fire. Behind him, Tyrion approached, bundled in furs far too fine for a land this raw. He'd been quiet since White Harbor, avoiding Jon, but now there was nowhere left to run from the truth between them. "You ever wonder if it was worth it?" Tyrion asked, not looking at him. Jon didn't answer. Tyrion exhaled slowly. "You chose her. I can understand that. Gods help me, I even envied it once. But this—" He looked around at the dead houses, the burned trees, the silence. "Isn't the world you promised your people? This isn't the man I once followed beyond the wall." Jon clenched his fists. "It's war." "It's a massacre," Tyrion corrected. "And you're not winning hearts. You're burning them." Jon turned to him, jaw tight. "If we don't finish it, she will, with or without me." Tyrion gave a bitter smile. "And that's why you'll keep following her? Out of fear of what she'll do without you? Is that love, Jon, or is that cowardice?" Jon looked away. He didn't answer, because he didn't know anymore. In Winterfell, the black banners of House Stark flew alongside new ones. Sigils twisted into vengeance. House Glover had returned from Deepwood Motte. House Reed sent quiet men from the neck with poisons and blades. Even the hill tribes came. Down from the mountains, howling for a chance to fight dragons. The North was not united in strength but in pain. And pain, Sansa knew, could turn into something far deadlier than loyalty. Arya returned from the shadows with news of Jon. "He rides west with Daenerys. She means to strike Bear Island next. House Mormont refused to kneel. Sansa's face didn't flinch. Then we cut the snake before it coils again. She sent ravens to the Vale, calling in old debts from the Knights of the Eyrie, and she sent word to the Ironborn under Yara Greyjoy, who had once promised to defend the North in Theon's name. That name still held weight, but she saved one letter for last. She handed it to Arya. Take this to Castle Black. The Night's Watch may be broken, but there are still men there, still oaths. If we're going to win this, we need the ghosts of the Wall. Arya frowned. You think they'll fight their own? I think, Sansa said quietly, they already buried their brother. Jon sat in Daenerys' war tent that night, silent as she paced. They still resist, she muttered. These people. They would rather die than live in the new world I've given them. Jon didn't speak. She turned to him, eyes burning. Why do you look at me like that? Like what? Like I've become something you can't defend. Jon stood. I can't defend burning children or dragging women into the snow to kneel with a blade at their throat. Daenerys stepped forward, her voice low. You said you believed in me. I believed in the world you wanted, he said, not the one you're making. Her eyes searched his, softening. Then help me make it right. Stay by me, Jon. Rule by my side and we'll finish this together. One last strike. Winterfell. We break them, and we build again from the ashes. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe her. But somewhere in that burning village, under the grey snow, he had seen it in her eyes. She wasn't trying to win the North anymore. She was trying to punish it. Jon nodded. He kissed her that night, slow and quiet, like it might be the last time, because in his heart, he already knew. The next time he saw Winterfell's gates, they would either open to him or they would fall because of him. The sky above Winterfell was bruised with smoke before the first horns blew. Snow fell in soft, silent flakes, trying to cover what was coming. But nothing could hide the shadow that stretched across the north as Daenerys' army approached. Thousands of Unsullied stood in formation, unmoving as statues. The Dothraki rode in cruel, chaotic circles outside the tree line, their screams loud enough to pierce even the thickest walls. Drogon circled above like a black god. Jon stood at the front with Ghost at his side, his only tie left to the Stark name. No armor bore the direwolf now. He wore Targaryen red and black. He told himself it was for peace, that if he stood there between fire and ice, he could still stop it. But the North wasn't listening anymore. From the ramparts, Sansa watched, through narrowed eyes. Her face was pale, but her stare didn't shake. Arya stood beside her, one hand resting on the pommel of her dagger. The sight of Jon in enemy colors twisted something in her stomach she thought had already died. They've come for the last hearth, Arya muttered. No, Sansa replied. They've come for a grave. Below, the gates stayed shut. No reply, no banners, just silence. Daenerys rode up beside Jon, dressed in her battle armor. She smiled faintly. They still think you won't let me burn it. Jon didn't answer. I wonder, she added, if they'd open the gates. For you, he turned his head. They won't. Her smile faded. Then you know what comes next. She raised her hand. Jon grabbed her wrist. Don't, he said, voice tight. Please, give me one chance. Let me speak to them. Let me try. Her eyes flashed with something unreadable. Anger, doubt, pity. She lowered her hand. You have until sunset. He rode forward alone. When he reached the base of Winterfell's wall, the cold was sharper than the wind. He dismounted, walked, toward the gate with Ghost beside him. He didn't call for Sansa. He didn't call for Arya. He only said one word, loud and clear. Bran. A long pause. Then the gate creaked open. Bran sat beneath the weirwood tree in the godswood, unmoving. Snow gathered in his hair and on his shoulders, and yet he seemed untouched by the cold. Jon stood before him like a boy again, unsure what to say. I didn't expect them to let me in, Bran blinked slowly. They didn't. I did. I came to stop this, Jon said. I thought I could hold her back, guide her, but she's not what I thought. She never was, Jon looked down. "She won't leave until Winterfell bows. She'll burn it if we don't." "I know." Bran tilted his head. "And what will you do when she gives the order?" Jon didn't answer. Not yet. Because he didn't know. Not fully. His mind was at war, his heart worse. He had crossed every line to keep her from becoming a monster. But what if he had only helped her become one? Bran's voice was soft now. "The North remembers, Jon, but it also forgives. It could forgive you." Jon's voice cracked. "Not after this." He turned and left before his heart broke completely. As he stepped back into the courtyard, Arya blocked his path. Her eyes didn't blink. Her blade didn't twitch. "You saw him," she said. He nodded. "And you're still leaving?" He looked her in the eyes. "I'm not here to fight you, but you're not here to fight her either," Arya said coldly. "So whose side are you on, Jon?" He said nothing. She stepped aside, disgust in her silence. The gates closed behind him as he rode back toward the Queen. By sunset there was no word from the castle. No flags raised, no surrender. Daenerys stood with her army at full readiness, Drogon above, wings outstretched. Her face was carved from stone. Jon rode up beside her. "Give them more time." She didn't even look at him. "You had your chance." He opened his mouth, but the roar of Drogon ended all words. Daenerys raised her hand, Drogon screamed, and the first fire fell on Winterfell's walls. Flames swept across the snow, turning white to black, stone to smoke. The front gate exploded in a cloud of splinters and heat. Screams echoed from within. Sansa stood her ground as ash rained around her. She did not run. Arya disappeared into the chaos. Bran sat beneath the weirwood tree, his eyes distant, unmoving. Jon watched in silence, horror rising in his throat like bile. This wasn't peace. This was vengeance, and it was his, because he had brought it here, because he hadn't stopped her when he still had the chance. And now the North burned, because of love, because of him. Winterfell burned. Not in a flash, but slowly, like a memory being erased piece by piece. The Godswood was still untouched, but the walls had been cracked open, and the courtyards were slick with blood and snow. The Dothraki poured through the broken gate first, wild with firelust. The Unsullied followed with ruthless precision. Daenerys watched it all from her black horse, Drogon perched behind her, breathing slow embers like a beast, barely holding back. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Jon rode behind the first wave, sword unsheathed but untouched. No blood on his blade, no glory in his face, just regret. Cold, bitter, strangling regret. He had warned her. He had begged her. But he hadn't stopped her. He turned down an alley and nearly tripped over a body. An old woman, a northerner, burned so badly her face was gone. Only the ring on her blackened finger still clung to some trace of identity. He knelt beside her, hand shaking. Then someone crashed into him, a blade at his throat. It was Arya. Her face was smeared with ash and blood. Her eyes were wild. "I should kill you," she whispered. "I know," Jon replied, voice hollow. "You let this happen." "I didn't mean to." "I don't care what you meant." She pressed the blade harder. "Sansa's gone. I can't find her. The crypts are full. There's smoke coming through the floor." His breath caught. No, not the crypts. He stood fast, pushing past her, heart pounding like war drums in his chest. Arya chased after him as they ran through the chaos, dodging bodies and flame. He reached the entrance, blocked. Stone and fire. No way down. He pounded on the rock, coughing from smoke. "Sansa!" he screamed. "Bran!" Nothing. Arya stood behind him, dagger lowered. They might be alive. Bran's smart. Maybe he saw it coming. Jon turned to her, eyes rimmed, red. This wasn't supposed to happen. Arya looked at him like she was seeing him for the last time. It already did. Later that night, after the fire dimmed and the snow turned black with soot, Daenerys walked through the ruins of Winterfell like it was already hers. Jon stood in the shadow of the broken tower, waiting. When she saw him, her smile was faint, exhausted. She stepped toward him. "We did it," she said. "The North is ours." He didn't speak. She reached for his hand, but he didn't lift it. "There's no more war, Jon," she whispered. "Just us, just peace." Jon looked her in the eyes. "This isn't peace," she stiffened. "It's the cost of change. You knew that. You burned the crypts. You think the past will save us?" she snapped. "The North has done nothing but resist. We gave them a chance." "They were my people," he said, voice cracking. "My family." "They were your past," she hissed. "I'm your future." She stepped closer, eyes pleading. "Stay with me, Jon. This world is broken. We can build a new one, together." Jon looked at her, and for the first time truly saw her. Not as the woman he loved, not as the queen he pledged to, but as the fire he had released. He kissed her once, soft, silent, like a funeral. Then he drove the dagger through her heart. Her eyes went wide. A soft breath left her lips. No scream, no anger, just surprise. She fell into his arms, and the mother of dragons died in the snow. Drogon's roar shattered the sky. He found her body and let out a sound that shook the ruins to their bones. Then he looked at Jon and did nothing. No fire, no vengeance, just grief. He picked up Daenerys' lifeless form in his claws and flew into the clouds, vanishing into legend. The war was over. But there was no victory. Jon turned himself in before the sun rose. The North had no more love for him. They didn't kill him. That would have been too easy. They sent him away, exiled, to the farthest end of the wall, to the ghost of a brotherhood that had long since died. No banners, no songs, no name, just snow, just ghost, and silence. He had saved the North, but he had lost himself. The queen he died for, the family he burned.